Yo, best season ever. Best season ever. Oh my god. Wow. We're 4 seasons into this show. For the longest time, I felt like season 2 was the strongest season, more or less because the emotional weight at the end with Wally's death really propelled it a lot more forward than I thought it was going to be propelled. But Young Justice Phantoms is absolutely fantastic. This is the best written story the DCAU has presented in years. And I'm a fan of Justice League Apocalypse War, but even Justice League Apocalypse War had its pitfalls where there were certain things that happened in Apocalypse War which just didn't make any sense, or for the most part, there are certain plot holes that I genuinely disagreed with. Absolutely not. This season utilized everything. From the very beginning, every single story was set up in some way, shape, or form going forward. So in the beginning, you had Connor and McGann going to Mars, but then you had hints of something going on Earth with Clarion and Chaos and Order. A little bit of hints of something going on New Genesis. A little dash here of the War World and Vandal Savage. A little dash here of Darkseid, and a little dash over here that there's someone in the background watching Connor. Then you move on from that and you jump into Clarion and the Child, I think was her name. Their war between Chaos and Order, or in general, a chaos civil war between Clarion and the Child, and everyone essentially just trying to survive. And while their battle is going on, you get a brief hint of something that's happening in Atlantis. A brief hint that something's going on over here at the side. A brief hint that Superboy is alive in the Phantom Zone. And then you jump from that and you move on to, I think the next one was the Atlantean arc, where the Atlantean arc explains the grand scheme of the war between Chaos and Order and Dr. Fate's place. But while this is going on, there are hints that I didn't even catch, that I didn't even realize was going on. Like, for instance, Mary Marvel at the beginning of the arc where Zatanna is teaching them magic, and she's trying to teach Mary not to rely on the Rock of Fate's essential power that's been corrupting her, that she goes off, and the last we see of her is that she says Shazam. Lightning bolt comes out of the sky, and that's it. And you're like, oh no, she fell off the bender, like, fucking hell. But then you have this battle that takes place that more or less explains Vandal Savage's motives, where he's just not running around causing chaos, trying to conquer the world, destroying shit. No, he sees the grander scheme of the cosmos, which is chaos rolls in, destroys, forces people to adapt, pushes them to their brink. As a result, they evolve. Order comes in, that order is maintained, chaos comes back in, does the same thing again, those people evolve, order comes back in, it maintains. It's the ebb and flow of essentially the universe. And he sees the ebb and flow. And the first time he toyed with this idea was essentially unleashing magicians out onto the world and the creation of Atlantis. On a complete side note, can we just talk about the fact that Atlantis's backstory in Young Justice is far more interesting than its core backstory in other DC properties and DC Comics in general? It is such an interesting idea that Vandal Savage would go around the world, learn about the world, create a village that was more advanced than everyone else. That village would end up being Atlantis. His children would have magical abilities. And then when he brought the forces of chaos upon Atlantis and sunk it beneath the waves, that the ones who survived were the Magi, who essentially ended up becoming the descendants or the ancestors of current Atlanteans, who also have like water magic. Fantastic writing, weaving everything together. A chalk outline on a wall which makes you think that it's Superboy that died when the bomb went off, only to get all the way to the end of the season, forget about the chalk outline, and then have the chalk outline essentially be Val-Zod being killed by Metron for the bullshit he pulled off in the very last arc. Beautiful! Masterful writing! Put these people in charge of the DCEU! Please! They are absolutely fantastic. They crushed it this season in every way, shape, and form. It's so nice being able to sit down and watch DC content and have a blast from beginning to end with no complaints whatsoever. Like everything else in the DC universe that I have to deal with on a consistent basis, Young Justice never failed me. And it really should have been on the channel a lot more because I faithfully watched it every single week. But there was so much other stuff going on and I was forgetting about it that those 30 minutes were just like a nice break. And now that the season is over, like there's this video that's going to be talking about how fantastic this season is in every way, shape, or form. Every single person had fantastic writing this season, from Connor's struggle to try and figure out who he is and marry M'gann and then almost dying and being reset to the Connor we met in season 1, to M'gann's struggle about figuring out her Martian heritage and falling in love with Connor and trying to create this life with him, losing him, and then going through the emotional turmoil of losing him, to learning more about Orion and then having Orion connect with what's her name, whose name I completely fucking forget, then having Superman raising a young Jonathan Kent and having to explain life or death in regards to like Connor dying, to Zatanna trying to be a teacher and taking on the Helmet of Fate and the Helmet of Fate's rotations between like the 4 new Magi students, Mary Marvel dealing with like her magic addiction, Val-Zod trying to save his father, Zod trying to be the despot that he usually is, Impulse trying to like live up to the memory and the honor that is Wally, the Legion of Superheroes doing their thing from the future. All of it. Fantastic writing. You are engaged in all of them. Beautiful. This season is fantastic. And it wins, like, in my opinion, the best season award. And if I'm going to be quite honest, it probably wins the best DCAU animation award for anything they've put out in like the last few years. Because, God tier. I don't think they drop God tier on everything, but this season has been an absolute joy. Complete God tier in regards to writing. And the people who are writing this should definitely be in charge of writing for the overall DCEU. Like, the DCEU needs these writers. The people who write Young Justice, let me tell you, you're fantastic. And you should be in charge of writing the DC movie universe. That should be your job. Because you've proved by putting pen to paper and weaving this fantastic story that you can create stories that weave in between all of the movies, all of the TV shows, and then they coalesce into a good Justice League movie. Please. WB. Not even WB anymore. Fuck you. Discovery. Listen to me. These writers, they're your bread and butter. Put them in charge of the DCEU. Make these guys the ones writing the storyboards for the DC content going forward. And I promise you, you will not fail. You will succeed. Because this, like I said before, and I'll say it again, this season is an absolute fucking banger. It is God tier. But that's the end of this video. If you've watched this season and you fucking agree, comment down below, let me know. If you disagree and you didn't like the season, comment down below and tell me why, because that's just weird. And I will catch you in the next one. Peace.